Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this October 25th, 2016 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. You can catch my show every evening from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's on First Amendment. They also play the show at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. And if you can't get it there, go to my long-standing website at ArcticBeacon.com. That's ArcticBeacon.com, and you can get shows going back over a decade regarding what I call the Vatican-led New World Order. And, nowadays, the news on the mainstream, everyone knows, is tainted. We go to the alternative media, and you get a lot of disinformation there as well. My show's been called The Alternative to the alternative news, so you know you're getting the truth right here. And a long time ago, I interviewed Leo Zagami from Rome. This is going back, Leo's with me today. I should mention that. He's my guest from Rome. And I think it's almost 10 years we've been talking about the Vatican, haven't we, Leo? Are you there?
Well, it's basically 10 years to the date. 10 years. Exactly 10 years ago, we started this process of interviews together.
And has the world moved in the direction that we talked about? I remember talking about this conflict, this world conflict that may erupt 10 years ago. Now we're looking at the American elections right now, Leo, and there's a lot of talk here that the elections in America won't take place, either through internet shenanigans by other outside forces, or a war may break out. What's going on in Europe? How are you people looking at us here, and this possibility of the tensions between Russia, China, and America? Let me go ahead.
Well, I mean, people in Europe are quite surprised that the focus of such an important election has to be left on the
Go ahead.
Their pals. I think that they are shocked about the fact that the election is focusing on trivial, while instead there is a much more important pursuits that both the candidates are actually bringing, each one has a totally different orientation in regards to worldwide politics. And one thing is for sure, with Hillary Clinton, we are going definitely towards a new world war. And with Russia...
Right. Go ahead.
Satan too, that could destroy the whole of Texas in one go, or the whole of France. It seems like quite ridiculous that we should focus on Donald Trump's sexual behavior or Bill Clinton's sexual behavior.
And what about the name of this Satan 2? Quite interesting, huh?
Well, yes. I mean, of course, something that destroys a whole nation, it's definitely satanic.
Go ahead. Yep.
Of course, the world will change the moment that they will use such an important weapon, because it will change the whole. The whole of humanity will never be the same again, and of course we're going towards the end time scenario, and calling a nuclear missile Satan, it's Satan 2. It's pretty
right. Go ahead.
And now there is all these WikiLeaks that are coming together. We have also noticed, of course, the power of the Vatican-led New World Order in the last dinner that saw together the two candidates. This was, and I don't know if you noticed, Greg, during this important dinner that took place in, I think it was in New York, yes?
Yes, in New York, the Al Smith dinner, right.
Yes, and if you notice, a lot of the people...
Go ahead.
Of course, dinner, they were wearing their classical dinner suit, whatever. They had their crosses from the various orders of chivalry belonging to the Vatican.
Well, I didn't... yeah, that's interesting. Go ahead.
Because this gives the right perspective to who they are. You're not allowed to wear those crosses if you're not part of that establishment. and you're not allowed to wear them in official meetings, of course.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you have them also in America, but in Italy there is actually restrictions on this kind of things, because only certain orders can be bared publicly by politicians or by public people or security people, policemen, or so on. So you have, of course, these crosses that are there to show the power of the Vatican-led New World Order. And I think that
Go ahead.
this election, another Vatican charade. Another thing that is interesting is, of course, Donald Trump brought out this element, is the fact that in reality, Podesta and Hillary Clinton and the whole team is really using Catholics, manipulating them, and behind their back, just thinking about them as just bigots, and they don't have. They are really.
Go ahead.
And they don't really care about the Catholic faith or the beliefs. Of course, I mean, all this is led by liberal groups of Catholics that within the church are destroying the Catholic faith. And led by this new Pope, who is a Jesuit, of course, things are going worse and worse.
Well, what about this new Jesuit general? Why do you think this occurred?
Well, I mean, it's...
Go ahead.
That comes from... it's very important for them to have a Jesuit general that comes from a country that in this moment occupies a key position in the geopolitical asset of things. And he comes from Venezuela, and it's as I said, to myself, it's a little bit like seeing John Paul II being elected from Poland when the Cold War scenario demanded that kind of presence in the Vatican.
You know something? We have now two popes. We have Ratzinger still around. We also have two Jesuit generals that retired. Where's Kolvenbach now? Remember when he retired, and then the new
Kolvenbach is still alive and kicking. I mean, it's now the era of the three generals. If they called the era of Kolvenbach and Nicholas the era of the two generals, now is the era of the three generals. I think this also is a kind of...
All right, go ahead.
Going to have soon... yes, this is a preparation stage for what we're going to have soon in regards to the White Pope, because we have two White Popes at the moment. We have, of course, Ratzinger and Pope Francis, but it's possible, it's highly possible, that Pope Francis is going to resign soon, and so starting an era where you're going to have even three popes still alive. Why this has not happened yet? I mean, Pope Francis was thinking that...
Go ahead.
And that's why he had prepared, and this is information that comes from within the Vatican, he had prepared his resignation for a long time to coincide with his visit to Argentina. This visit was announced more than once on his official website and also on Wikipedia, and then it was cancelled. And now, a month ago, Pope Francis cancelled
All right.
in Argentina in the near future. This is quite shocking, because this information came out from me and from other researchers about the possibility that he will resign when he will visit Argentina. But not only that, this next resignation will coincide with a new move from the papacy, because the resigning Pope will not be demanded to stay in the Vatican. He will instead...
Go ahead.
He will instead stay in his... Yes, he will instead stay in his place of birth, his hometown, the place where he was a cardinal. So, for example, Pope Francis will simply return to Argentina and stay in Argentina and Buenos Aires for the rest of his days. This will destroy indefinitely the divinity of the papacy that already has been damaged a lot by what's happening with Ratzinger and Pope Francis being allowed.
Go ahead.
Also, what Father Georg said, and I think I mentioned this the last episode, is that they divided the papacy into two, let's say, two offices. One is the contemplative spiritual one, which is basically being given to Ratzinger, and the other one is the geopolitical one, which is driven by the Jesuit Pope Francis.
Okay.
What is happening at the moment. We have a papacy divided in more offices, not really an enlarged papacy, not simply a pope and a pope which has resigned and is not working anymore within the church. No, Ratzinger is in effect working very much, and he's doing it from behind the scenes, like he did before. Of course, he's work a little bit more silently, especially with the financial aspect of the Vatican, because let's remember that Pope Ratzinger has kind of moved all of the gold and all of the assets just before his resignation to JP Morgan in Frankfurt. Mm-hmm. And so what we have now in the Vatican Bank is more of a bunch of pieces of paper credits.
All right.
Gold is a big asset of the Vatican, definitely.
What was that? I couldn't catch that. What was the asset?
I said gold is definitely the main asset of the Vatican, especially for a key reason. The Vatican, being a state, has the possibility of making this gold legal even when it comes from illegal sources. Most of the Nazi gold ends up in the Vatican hands after the war.
Interesting. You know, I want to shift gears here, talk about ISIS. Here in America, it's pretty simple to see that Hillary Clinton's policies have really fomented and caused ISIS, and everything that Obama and Clinton do seem to allow ISIS to grow even bigger. The one connection that people have a hard time making is that they work together with the Jesuits to make sure that the money gets to the right places, make sure the weapons get to the right places. And I know we've talked about Father, I think his name is Michel, the last name, and his direct connection to ISIS. I thought you'd, and also to radical Islam.
But also Father Deloyo, who is still missing and is actually directing ISIS divisions within Syria.
That's the one, yeah, Father Deloyo. And also Father Michel, a Jesuit, who actually wrote a huge paper regarding radical Islam and how he seems to support it. Talk about these two priests and their connection to our government getting the weapons and basically fomenting ISIS.
Well, I mean, we know that definitely the weapons that have gone into ISIS direction have often used the open corridor of Turkey into Syria. And that happened because, of course, there was a certain groups
Go ahead.
active in favor of ISIS within the Turkish government. One of the main groups, of course, was the one of Fethullah Gulen. Fethullah Gulen is the Trojan horse of moderate Islam that hides in reality the same plan as fundamentalist Islam, because we have to remind our listeners that Fethullah Gulen, who works and resides in the US and is the leader of one of the biggest Islamic movements in the world, is officially some
Go ahead.
of the caliphate, but it's always the caliphate he's proposing. I mean, I found recently photos of people manifesting in Turkey against Fethullah Gulen, saying we don't want the caliphate and we don't want Gulen's caliphate. So, I mean, the caliphate for us is associated here in the West only with ISIS. But in reality, the caliphate is a very old concept.
Yep, I see.
Back to the last Ottoman Sultan, and of course the Ottoman Empire that Fethullah Gulen wants to bring back was the last heir to this ancient tradition in the Islamic world.
You know something, Leo, that's interesting, and maybe you could explain it to the American people. Why then would America and Obama and Clinton, who brought Gulen over here, I know Turkey wants to bring him back for his crimes, why would we then protect him and actually give him American taxpayer money and allow him to open up more than 150 of these charter radical Islamic schools? Explain that to people here.
Well, people need to know that those schools are in exchange of operations done with similar schools in the Caucasic region, which for years, decades actually, since the 80s, backed up secret illegal operations.
Interesting.
By the CIA and other U.S. intelligence agencies. At the same time, they are, as I said, stated just earlier, the Trojan horse of Islam in the Western world, because what's happening with this Gulen movement is that not only they are tolerated, but they have bought their way into the society. Let's remember that both Hillary and Bill Clinton have been actively sponsored.
Interesting.
Who is now in the campaign. I mean, I think that Donald Trump said the right things when he said Hillary is sponsored by the enemy, sponsored by those countries, but not only by those countries like Morocco, Saudi Arabia, whatsoever, but she has also sponsored directly within the U.S., which is Fethullah Gulen, with some of the richest people in Turkey, who have been backing her campaign.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand how it's possible that Hillary is having still all this success in the U.S. Because, I mean, it's quite shocking to see how corrupt she is, and all these WikiLeaks that come out day after day are just confirming what we have been saying for years. Now, I think that if by any chance Trump wins this election, at that point it will be the end.
What was that?
On people.
Repeat that. I couldn't hear it.
The end. Yes. It will, this election, if Trump manages to win it, will manifest the end of the conventional grip of the media on people and on the mass. We know that the media, the conventional media through the TV, doesn't have anymore the kind of grip they used to have in the pre-internet era. It's just a matter of time before they lose this grip. So,
right. Go ahead.
Better than later, because of course, if we have to wait 4 years with Hillary Clinton, we know that we're probably not going to have a planet in 4 years. The same way, because this will mean a Third World War. This will mean a complete disaster. The Russian ships have, for the first time, traveled from Russia into the Mediterranean, facing the Dover coast of the UK, with cannons at the British shores. This, in a defiance, you are basically passing in front of an enemy and showing them that you are not only, you're not scared, but you are actually threatening them with your weapons. And after this show of force which saw Russia, I must say that the cowards of the European community immediately had to change their tune with Russia in the last 2 days. So this is quite interesting.
Go ahead.
And these Jesuit stooges are ultimately a bunch of cowards. And this is, of course, obvious by just watching in their faces. When you see Matteo Renzi having dinner with Obama, you see that these people are just two cowards. That they will never be able to face a gun in their face, let alone a nuclear missile like Satan II.
You know something? I know Renzi, your prime minister, was just here with Obama.
Yes.
And I assume he supports Hillary Clinton. So what's going on with the political strife in Italy? People talking up against Renzi. Are there people speaking out?
People are speaking out against Renzi every day. Unfortunately, the grip that these people have over the media, and we go back into the same kind of grip that they have on the media on the other side of the ocean, leaves very little choice for people to have correct information on what is happening. But it's become...
Mm-hmm. Same here, yeah.
Average person, I'm not talking about is becoming increasingly evident even for the average Joe in the street that this information is manipulated. I mean, to see an idiot like Renzi promoting his referendum, which in Italy is already lost. I mean, he will lose in the 4th of December when he's planning this referendum. He has already lost. And why he has lost? Because Italians are not idiots. They have seen.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Will take the power, will take the legitimate power of the people of Italy and simply give it in the hands of the bureaucrats in Brussels. We are selling out our sovereignty bit by bit, and Renzi was just asking in the most, scandalous way, because, you shouldn't ask a foreign president to help you out with your own national difficulty in your own national politics, no?
Exactly.
But he pushed Obama to say,
mm-hmm.
Yes, for the change in Italy, blah, blah, blah. Of course, I think that this is because, in the end, what's happening is very clear. America and NATO and the intelligence agencies, the U.S. State Department, are really losing touch with what is happening in Europe. And by losing touch and giving more and more power to these idiotic bureaucrats, we call them, you know how we call in Italy people like Matteo Renzi? How they're...
No, what do you say?
They have a nickname. They are called Bimbo Minchia. Bimbo Minchia means they are a little kid, idiot kid, to say the least. This is their nickname, because they are people that come from... They're not people who have really an experience more than with their cell phone, their smartphone. Renzi is always on the smartphone. He's a typical product, he's a typical product of the idiot.
Sounds interesting.
Berlusconi era.
Wow.
And this is the responsibility of people like Berlusconi that unfortunately left us with somebody like Renzi. We have to remember that Berlusconi signed an agreement with Renzi and with his party in order to give him power and to stay in power itself with his TV stations, with his media empire, because he was threatened by Rothschild and by...
Wow. Go ahead.
In Italy, he got a fine of 500 million euros. And this fine was implemented 5-6 years ago by the courts in Europe, in Italy. And at that point, Berlusconi couldn't do anything else than just give up the social politics.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's just a ghost of himself. The poor guy, he's completely ridiculous.
Wow. Hey, Leo, we're gonna have to take a break. Go ahead.
Yes.
We're gonna.
Sure.
Hey, let's take a break right now. We're running out of time here in the first half hour. We'll come back in 3 minutes with Leo Zagami from Rome on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal. This is the second half hour on this October 25th, 2016. My guest is Leo Zagami from Rome, Italy. And Leo, we left off talking about Clinton and Obama's policies seem to be supporting radical Islam and ISIS and the connections to the Jesuits and the Vatican. I did want to say one thing, though. There's a lot of worry here in this country right now that the elections won't even take place. And we're going to get to that in a minute, as we discussed in the first half hour. But also, we're not getting the straight story about Clinton's support here. I think it's very, very low. But here, the media constantly tells us that she's ahead. Well, listen to what I keep touch with a Christian group, a large ministry that goes to every one of Clinton and Trump's rallies. And here's what they told me today, because they keep in touch with me. They said, "We are a large Christian group who have attended all of the presidential rallies all over the country distributing gospel literature. We know that Donald Trump has consistently had thousands and thousands of more supporters at his rallies than Hillary. We have seen firsthand that the turnout at her events has always been drastically lower. We are very angry to hear the media claiming that Trump is far behind in the polls. We know that Trump is being shafted. He should be way ahead." What do you hear in Italy about this?
What we hear is the distortion that you have also in the mainstream media in the U.S. What we hear is the propaganda of Matteo Renzi's regime, which goes along with George Soros and all the media that go along with it. Unfortunately, in Italy, we don't even have...
Right, go ahead.
...alternative like you have... in Italy, you don't even have the alternative you have in America with Fox News. I mean, in Italy, you simply have left-wing news all the way, which means pro-Clinton, and they even come up, RAI, News the other day came up with saying that Clinton was winning 93%, which is a complete lie.
They really said that?
Yeah, I mean,
That's amazing.
When I saw it, I said, what kind of propaganda are they pushing this morning? And it was 93%. I mean, it's complete lie. But I mean, the people, unfortunately, don't have alternatives if not within the actual spectrum of the internet, in which they are saying that Trump, of course, is winning. Some of the alternative Italian media have pointed out on this situation, just like you did now, on the fact that we are being lied upon by the pools, by the mainstream media. And so I think that, as I said earlier, if Trump wins, it will definitely be the end of mainstream media as we know it, and the grip they have on the New World Order.
What, just from what you hear from the Vatican, what do you think? Who do you think they prefer, the Jesuits and the Vatican?
Well, you know, when it comes down to the Jesuits,
yeah, go ahead.
It's obvious that they're pushing for Hillary Clinton, the Jesuits. This is because of their liberal agenda, because of the fact that they are aligned with Soros and so on. But when it comes to traditional Catholics, and even Radio Maria, which is one of the main Catholic radios, as you know, the owner of Radio Maria said that Trump will be his choice. But when it comes down to Pope Francis, it seems like they are really brainwashed to push Clinton.
Go ahead.
Because, of course, the liberal agenda that Hillary is pushing, the satanic agenda, is the Jesuit agenda. So, of course, this is what the Vatican is trying to push through. I want to let you know that yesterday in Italy, yesterday night, something incredible happened that never happened before.
Go ahead, tell us.
In the north of Italy, near Ferrara, in a traditionally left-wing area, people blocked the entrance of a whole city to avoid receiving
To avoid what?
To avoid receiving immigrants, a whole city created barricades on the street in defiance of the police, in defiance of the mayor, in defiance of the governor of the region. And so, if they don't change their tune, it will be the people of Italy to rebel, as it will be the people of Europe. So, this agenda of letting in all these refugees, you know how many refugees?
How many? Tell us.
Nearly 200,000, only this year.
In Italy?
So, in Italy only.
Right.
And we are left alone to have to deal with this problem, because European Union is just a pile of crap and of empty promises, which is not really giving the support that they should give. The flexibility that that Italians ask to the are spending all this money on these immigrants. We need to have more flexibility from the EU. Yeah. And this flexibility, unfortunately, is not coming. So then the next move will be to be like Hungary. So it's quite incredible to see how the mayor of Ferrara and all these idiots saying, oh, these people should be in Hungary. It's a shame. They were only women and whatever. Well, we don't care if they were women.
Go ahead.
Immigration is destabilizing the security and jeopardizing the peoples of Italy welfare and the whole system. So I think that if this situation goes on, we are definitely going towards a civil war. I mean, what has happened last night to actually surround the whole city and create barricades to protect the city from immigrants coming in has never been seen before.
Yeah, and you know, just on this side of the ocean, we never hear anything here about what's going on in Europe. The media stays silent, and the stuff you do get, you get on the internet. And the people of America need to be warned that if you look at Germany, France, Italy, what's happening to you guys over there. Trump is the only person telling us when you listen to his rallies. It's amazing. Go ahead.
Trump is not a politician. Trump is an independent-minded person. That's why we like Trump.
Yeah, and we don't hear anything about the...
like Trump himself is saying for a long time, are guys who are corrupt, who become lobbyists after they become politicians. Their only agenda is their pocket and nothing else. And so people, even this morning, I was, for example, just at the mechanic this morning with my car in the early hours of the morning, and I heard people saying, we had enough. These people are just taking our money. These politicians are not really addressing.
Right. Go ahead.
Them. And this was said by the common person in the street. So, I think, Greg, that when you get to a certain point, then it's not a matter anymore of what they want to do against us to oppress us. It's a matter of taking the situation in our hands, and I truly believe that within the next 4 years we're going to have civil war in Europe on a massive scale.
Yeah, I can't see it if it keeps continuing like this. It's amazing. And, I used to tell people all the time, because I lived in Rome for 7 years, I said it was one of the most beautiful places to be. Very safe. I enjoyed the people. It was Rome is Rome. And when I talk to you, it's not that way anymore. Tell us the differences within the last 10 years, what's happened to your city.
Well, the difference in the security is massive. Here we are talking about a city with...
Right, go ahead.
Has problems of security every day. There is certain areas that are completely off limits after 10 o'clock at night. There is basically immigrants who deal with drugs and take control of certain areas in Rome. And actually there is also Italians, poor Italians who, in some areas like Torbella Monaco, for example, Greg, they just showed a documentary a couple of weeks ago on national TV. I couldn't believe my eyes.
What was it?
With a machine gun on Italian TV in this drug-loaded area, in basically plain sight of everybody. They are having machine guns like we are in Syria and we are in Rome. And you know how difficult it is to actually have weapons in Italy. So to actually have somebody carrying a machine gun, it's a little...
Well, tell us, since the Vatican is right in the middle.
Hello?
Yeah, are you there?
I can't hear you, Greg.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear?
I can't hear you any longer. Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, good. I was saying, since the Vatican is right in the center of Rome, what's the Pope doing about this problem?
The Pope is a Jesuit. The Pope is full of empty promises. The Pope is full of words and no substance. I think that people are gradually getting...
Right.
When he is endorsing this massive immigration at the expense of the Italian people. And he's like, he's saying, oh, you're not Catholics if you don't accept them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you,
outrageous.
It is. And, why don't we talk about, we talked about Fethullah Gulen, and let's go back to where you first knew about him to show you that this has not just happened overnight. This has been a long-term plan of the Jesuits. How did you first hear of Gulen?
Fethullah Gulen is, I think, the guy they really wanted to have as their ally to develop the moderate side of Islam as a Trojan horse for fundamentalist Islam. Gulen is also a descendant of Prophet Muhammad. So the fact that he's actually of the bloodline of the Prophet puts him in a special chain of power.
I didn't know that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Fethullah Gulen is not Fethullah Gulen is not your traditional scholar, that went to university, went to the academic world. No. Fethullah Gulen is a guy who is a little bit like somebody out of the Exorcist movie. He used to speak Aramaic when he was 5 years old. He had read 5,000 books by the time he was 10 years old. He is definitely not your average person.
Okay. Go ahead.
His idea of science is not the classic idea of science that we have here in the West. Science for him is a mix of magic, of using genies, using entities, basically dealing with the invisible world in a way that for him is like a science.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, his schools are very pragmatic, and that hasn't happened before for organizations like this, because when you have an organization like that, you usually end up having a lot of problems when it comes down to the acceptance in the academic world, because they think you are some kind of weird sect, which he is.
Well, I think, here's what I was going to ask you. I think they're using him, like you said, to spread radical Islam all over the West, including Europe, now here in America. And the big picture that we forget is that I have said, and you've said many times, that the people at the top of these countries of Italy, America, working with the Jesuits, want to destroy Western civilization as it is and bring in radical Islam. People need to know this, and the Vatican works together with these people to accomplish this. You understood Gulen years ago. Tell us when you first understood about. I remember talking to you a decade ago about him in Norway, and what happened to you there. Go ahead.
Well, going against Gulen was basically going against my family, because the co-founder of his movement was the father of my ex-wife. My ex-wife, as you remember, was also a descendant of Prophet Muhammad. And so basically I was kind of entrusted with a lot of their secrets until they understood independence, and that I was not giving up my own freedom to join a sect. They wanted me to just be, a Gulen activist. They sent me this Gulen preacher every Wednesday to teach me the way of Gulen. They wanted me to go to mosque on a Friday. They forbid me to read certain books that were not in line with Gulen's teachings. And so all of this was...
And go ahead.
I had to renounce. And of course, renouncing to Gulen was also renouncing to my family, because since then I never saw my son again.
And
I was accused of espionage in Norway, where they are very influential, as the Gulen movement is very influential still nowadays in Norway. Norway is also one of the main backers as a state to the Clinton campaign. They give money to the Clinton campaign. I hope that Donald Trump wins, because that will mean the automatic of Gulen. It will mean the arrest of Gulen. It will mean a whole change of setups here in Europe. Things will change. The setup we have now is the Obama-Clinton setup, and it will stay that way, and it's the Jesuit setup of Pope Francis. Unfortunately, this election seemed to me truly rigged. And I don't know if you heard about the fact that even the machines that are used in many of the states for the elections are built by a company of...
Built by George Soros' company, right? What?
Yeah.
What?
So basically...
Go ahead.
Well, when you have an election which basically has machines built up by the enemy, I don't know if the result can ever be favorable to you,
I read that he, at least in 20 states, his machines are running the elections.
Yeah, that is the problem, And the system that you have in the U.S. is really backwards.
What was that?
We have a much more safe systems. I mean, here in Europe, if you want to vote, you have to definitely be who you say you are. In the U.S., not so much.
I know there's so many loopholes. We have people that we have over 2 million people dead that are voting.
I know. I mean, it's like we have a whole zombie nation voting, and then we have, on top of that, people who are probably not even U.S. citizens.
Exactly. They were even talking about the Democratic Party said, as long as you have a driver's license, go in there and lie and say you're a citizen. What's that about?
This reminds me of what happened in the 80s in Italy. In the 80s, I don't know if you remember, but the first immigrants to arrive were the Polish people with John Paul II.
I remember, yes.
And when the Polish people arrived, Craxi, you remember Craxi?
Right. Yes.
He said, let them in. They will be voting for us after.
Exactly.
And, I mean, that is what they're doing. They're just getting votes in, and it's really sad to see that this is just down to the voting system, which is in the hands of these people who don't have any ethics, any morals, and who are definitely in defiance of our sovereignty, of the sovereignty of each state, being either the U.S. or Italy or any other state. They want to destroy the...
Yeah. Well,
more and more. They want this world to be without barriers and without frontiers.
What's interesting is you talked about the Polish migration under John Paul II. I was there, and I did a story about it, and the Vatican was buying up large high-rise buildings, and they were putting all these Polish immigrants in there, and I went to do the story on there. I remember there were like 2 20-story buildings where housing buildings they bought, nice high-rises, and I went there, and these people were living better than I was living. And they were telling me, yes, we love Italy, we can now do any, so they were using them to get their votes, and that's what they're doing now here in America again.
They will continue doing it until somebody's going to stop them. I mean, this is what's happening with the New World Order. It seems like whatever we try, they are always acting, 2 steps in front of us. I hope that...
I know what you mean. Go ahead.
Remote possibility of regaining freedom with Donald Trump.
Yeah, and I mean, I hear...
Europeans believe that Donald Trump can be the change. Most Europeans do. We think that soon after the Matteo Renzi period is gonna, all these people like Angela Merkel or Hollande are gonna fade out. Then the next stage into European politics will be the distraction, the disgregation.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
And right-wing politics. So right-wing politics is really on the rise, Greg, and it's on the rise everywhere in Europe. And the fault of it is of these left-wing politicians. So I mean, they have to only blame themselves. But I don't know if they're actually doing it on purpose, because the result will be basically the end of democracy.
Yeah, it's a scary situation even here, and that's why we get back to where we started on the show. There's a lot of talk that the elections won't even take place here. I mean, the rumblings of war right now, I've never seen it the way it is. And we started out talking about Russia names their missile the Satan II that can destroy 4 million people. They're talking about things that are incredible, and Obama here is fomenting this. And I believe we will do the first strike. What's your thoughts?
Whoever does the strike first, the result...
What was that?
Both parts. There is no winner in a nuclear war. There never has been a winner in nuclear war. What I think might happen is that, of course, people are not so stupid to end up throwing a nuclear missile to another state which can retaliate with the same power. I think that instead what we're going to have is gradually a return to the old Cold War ideology, the old Cold War kind of set of mind.
Yeah, you might be right.
Separated in different areas of influence, and it's going to be the end of democracy, because of course, as you remember, in the Cold War period, Italy was a cradle of the strategy of tension because of the Cold War.
People ask me, where's the safe place now to live? And I say, well, maybe Italy, because the Vatican is there. What's your thoughts?
I think that up until now we didn't have any terrorist attacks. One of the reasons is that the main...
What was that?
Weapons with other things, actually mainly antiquities, is actually Gioia Tauro in the south of Italy, in Calabria. So attacking Italy would mean to attack their own lines of money, because they are actually making a lot of money with all the antiquities that they have robbed in Iraq, in Syria, and so on. So they have now just confirmed a week ago that they go through the port of Gioia Tauro.
Oh my God! What
was the place where there was a heavy involvement of the P2 George Ugo Balestrieri. You remember George Ugo Balestrieri?
Oh yes.
He actually at one point in 2008, 2009, he had to escape from Italy because he had an arrest warrant. He was finally arrested a couple of years ago, and now he's back in the U.S. He continued to be one of the main representatives for the International Rotary Club at the United States.
I remember that. Hey, Leo, hold that thought.
Which is unheard of.
Leo, hold that thought.
Yeah.
We're all out of time. And we're going to get back with you in a week or so and continue, okay? Thanks a lot for being on the show, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie, with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character, as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.